guys to work the Pacific. It's not easy for a lot of other people. You know, for us here in Washington and Idaho, it's very easy to talk to the Pacific. But as you'll see, I have a signpost with the mileage to different parts of the world, and you'll see later how remote this area really is. Here's my last several trips. I was on Rarotonga twice. I went to Rivave in the Austral Islands, and then Samoa. To give you an idea, Rivave is a little tiny island that you could ride a bicycle around in a couple hours, where the main island of Samoa is like 40 miles long and 20 miles wide. It's really big. And then last November, I went to the Federated States of Micronesia, or FSM, and I'll talk about what that is and where it's located. This is an older picture from when Bill N70U and I had adjacent hotel rooms in Rarotonga. So this is what got me started in the Pacific. And Bill was doing volunteer work, and when he wasn't using his antennas, I just ran a coax into my room. So that was my first experience in the Pacific. So what and where is Micronesia anyway? If you look in the upper left of this map, there's a 500-mile marker or scale. And you can put a whole bunch of those 500-mile markers across this map. So Micronesia is a very large area in the Western Pacific. It includes several DXCC countries: Kilo Hotel 0, Kilo Hotel 2, Tango 88, Victor 63, Victor 73, Charlie 21, Tango 30. It's a pretty big area. And the area in the center there, the Caroline Islands, are now a separate country called the Federated States of Micronesia. So there's really a kind of a two meanings to that word. Here's a closer map of the Caroline Islands, which is divided into 4 states: Yap, Chuuk, Pohnpei, and Kosrae. Okay, and I visited Pohnpei, where that little star is next to the city. That's the capital of the Caroline Islands. And those of you who have been licensed for a while may remember that the Caroline Islands used to be KC6. Okay, here's one of my cards from KC6 from 1988. What I didn't know, I pulled this card out just so I could show it to you. What I didn't know is that's the place where I was operating from. And furthermore, where's the next slide? Come on, you can do it. All right, come on. Something's acting up. Let's see if I can. There we go. This is the back of that QSL card. For those of you who don't know, WA2 Too Much Pizza Portable 7 was my previous call, and I'll tell you, K7AR is a breath of release over that. So here's a card from 1988. And you notice it says 10,000 QSOs from the South Park Hotel, where that's where we're going. That's where I stayed. And look at the operator, JA7 Hotel Mike Zulu. He was supposed to be on Pohnpei at the same time I was, and I'd scheduled to meet him. But he wrote me before he left and said his 98-year-old mother is sick and he can't go. But because it's a shame, I was going to show him this card when I went there. Anyway, so how do you get to Micronesia? Well, for me anyway, it's a 2-day trip. We go from Portland to Honolulu, sleep overnight, and then we get the so-called island hopper flight, which goes to Majuro in the Marshall Islands, Pohnpei and Guam, and then the return flight goes from Guam to Pohnpei to Kwajalein to Majuro to Honolulu. So that's the return trip I took. Of course, I didn't go to Guam. Here's a picture of what Pohnpei looks like. And this is the dictionary definition of an atoll. It's this really skinny little piece of land with, apparently they have an opening in it so boats can get in. But it's this really skinny, there's not a lot of land here. And furthermore, can you see the runway? That's what we landed the 737 on. So, I mean, that strip of land can't be more than 200-300 feet wide. But that is Majuro, the capital of the Marshall Islands. And here's some other pictures of this narrow strip of land that, I don't know, you think these guys are concerned about climate change? That looks like that could flood really easy. So anyway, here's another view. Lots of boats in the interior of it. So this is an atoll with this little skinny piece of land that goes all the way around. And finally, after a couple days of traveling, we arrive at the airport where I am heavily overdressed. It's probably 98 degrees and 98% humidity, nonetheless. So got there with no problems after a couple days of traveling. I might mention, this location is one of the greenest tropical islands I've ever seen. It's also one of the rainiest islands I've ever seen. I believe they get 300 inches of rain per year. And I think it rained every day when I was there for some period of time. So here's what this island looks like. And I've learned from my previous trips to stay on the north side of an island and try to get as close to the water as you can. So the interior of this island is mountains. So you don't want to be on the south side. So we're in this little city called Colonia, and I'm in the South Park Hotel, which is, it's not on the water, it's above the water. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 100 feet above the water. And a little bit later in the talk, we'll go for a walk around Colonia. There's not much to see, but I'll give it a shot. Here's the hotel, or at least the part that I stayed in. My room is right next to the second set of stairways there. This is an older building. It's kind of fallen apart, but nonetheless. This grassy area is where I put my antennas. And I was looking around for a place to put up my crank IR when I saw this. And I went, oh, what's that? Oh, that goes to our radio room. Oh, there's a radio room? Yes, there is. Can I see it? This is inside this kind of radio room. There's no equipment there, just like an antenna rotator and cables. And I decided I would not try to use this because I didn't know what condition it was in. I didn't know if I might damage something. So I decided not to use that existing Yagi. But apparently there's people that come down here all the time, mostly JAs, as you can see. In this grassy area, I put up a crank IR, which has been modified. It has a 31-foot fiberglass pole on top of the box. And that allows me to get a full quarter wavelength on 30 meters with just a wire going straight up, and almost a full quarter wavelength on 40 meters. What I like about the crank IR is it has no traps or coils or capacitors or anything that can absorb power. It's just a monoband vertical antenna with one elevated radial. And those little orange lines you see at the top, those are the guy ropes. This thing absolutely has to be guy. And here's the bottom of it. You can sort of see the radial wire going out to the left. And then the wire with the spool goes up, across, and back down to the return spool. Then on 160, I have a 12-meter spider pole that has this coil at the top, if you can see that coil, and then a little stinger wire that goes out about 40 feet. And I brought with me this DX Engineering radial plate, and I may not bring that again. It's a little bit heavy. I'm going to try to keep the weight down next time. So there's no balun or anything. It's just the center wire just goes straight up to the coil and then out to the horizontal piece. So here's my two coaxes from those two antennas that go across a gravel driveway. But that's about all I could do with it. And cars were going back and forth driving on my coax. And this car, I thought, man, that guy looks like he's really close to my coax. And yeah, he parked right on top of it. So anyway, is that what's called direct burial cable? That's, I made contacts all night long like that, and luckily he was gone the next day, and I tried to rearrange. Here's my Elecraft station, which I've had really, really good luck traveling with. If this equipment is good enough for major expeditions, it's good enough for me. I think the 500 or 600 watts that I could get out on 160 was just not quite cutting it. I wish I had more power. 160 was okay, but I don't know. It just didn't work out as good as I hoped. Let me talk about FT8 for a couple minutes. You guys may have seen, oh, by the way, there's K7XB in the log on the left. Instant amongst all the JAs. Good report too, John, +4. In the March QST, I wrote an article about this call first setting down here. And it appears in the House DX column in the March QST if you want to read it. However, my article was heavily edited by QST, heavily edited. I intended to write it as a critical editorial, and they very much sanitized it. The point I was trying to make is that this call first setting is unfair. See all these people up here calling at 1,500, 2,000, 2,300? Those guys can call all day long and never, ever have a QSO. Never, ever. As long as there's other guys down here calling. Anyway, I thought that was unfair, and I wrote an editorial about it. And like I said, you could sort of read it in QST. Here's a little close-up of that. So this Yankee Charlie 2 is calling on 488 cycles, and therefore he got the contact. Okay, he was calling on the lowest frequency, so that's what call first does. So calling on the lowest frequency, he got through. But look at the next red area. This guy, JI2FBG, does not appear up here. Okay, he does not appear, but essentially what he did is cut in front of the line. He cut in front of all these other people, and then he had the next QSO. And as I said, I don't think that's fair. These guys can call all day long, and you don't know if the DX station has call first checked or not. Anyway, enough of that. Let me go on to Fox mode. But first, here is a tool that you can use to measure your Fox and Hound success rate. What do you think of that thing? That is a real product. I saw it Fry's. I'm not sure what it's used for. This is a screenshot of my laptop while running in Fox mode. I'm guessing that many of you have operated as a Hound. I'm also guessing that none of you have operated as a Fox. So I thought I might take a minute to talk about that. In the upper left is the waterfall diagram. You can see it's pretty full. All the people calling above 1,000 cycles, that's my pileup. This guy calling at 800 cycles up in here, he's confused. He's one of these guys that doesn't understand you have to call above 1,000 if you're in Hound mode. Anyway, he will never have a QSO either. I'm using N1MM in what I call passive logging. N1MM is not talking to the radio. It's not controlling anything. All it's doing is listening for logging packets from WSJT and logging them. So here's the N1MM log. This must, boy, only 253 Qs. So this must have been right when I started. Yeah, November 18th. So this was just when I started. WSJT also maintains a separate Fox log. You've probably seen the all.txt. Well, there's also a Fox log.txt. So this is what I see as the Fox operator. These are the stations calling me. Okay. Then what I do is I click on these and put the stations in a queue, which is down here. This is the queue of operators. So the one at the bottom, United X-Ray 7, he has to bubble his way up through 11 other contacts before he gets a contact. That's why when you call someone in Fox mode, it can take 5 minutes for him to come back. Okay. So the Fox thing is on this tab number 3, which you guys have probably not used. So this is my queue. This is how big the queue is. If I want to, I can change the maximum setting that I want to receive. If I want to work weak stations only, I can change this so the max dB is like -20 or something. This is the number of, they call it slots, I call it streams. Okay, 3 streams. Here they are, TX 1, 2, and 3. Notice the timestamp is the same, 3430. Okay, so this is how the Fox mode, and you can see those 3 streams in your waterfall diagram. Here it's only using 2 of the streams, here it's only using 1, and up here it's using 3 again. So it's smart enough to know what outstanding packets it has and how to deal with it. So this is Fox mode, and one of the things I like about it is it's very non-stressful. It's not like a CW pileup where I've got the veins on my forehead sticking out or something. This is very non-stressful. You see people here, you move them to the queue, they bubble up through the queue, and they get in the log. Very easy. What about internet access from a place like this? Well, there it is, the junky old wireless router just thrown up in the rafters. This is the third or fourth location I've been to where they go into the settings in the router and they turn down the power on it. So you have to be within 50 feet or so or less to really get a signal. And they do that just to keep people, like if you really, really want internet access, we'll give it to you, but you have to be in the lobby area to get it. And like I said, other islands have done the same thing. All right, Colonia is their capital city. Let's look around a bit. Look at some of the distances on this. Even nearby Guam is still 1,000 miles away. Atlanta, 7,400. Even Colombia, 8,100. Paris, 8,300. And then the winner is Cape Town, almost 10,000 miles. So this location is really pretty remote. There's nothing on here that's closer than 1,000 miles away. Buenos Aires, 9,400. So I don't know. Now that I look at that, probably pretty good to be able to work East Coast and Europe and even Brazil. So here's downtown Colonia. There's not a whole lot going on here. It's a small town, little stores and so forth. Now, if anybody know why they have rebar and pipes sticking up out of the roof? If I was there in person, I'd take answers. The answer is so the property owner can claim the property is under construction. Never mind, it's been that way for 20 years. It's under construction. So you see that, you especially see it a lot in the Caribbean. This is the organization that issued my license, telecom department, also in Colonia. This is the upper part of my license, and it has dates and it has a call sign. The bottom part of it has what frequencies I'm allowed to use. I didn't copy that, but if you do go on an expedition, I want to stress that it's very important that you be legal and properly licensed, especially if you need to show your license to a customs official as proof that you are allowed to bring this equipment into the country. You ever wonder how a little island like this keeps in touch with the rest of the world? Well, there it is. These satellite dishes carry all telecommunications, television, internet, telephone, cable TV, whatever it is, it all goes through here. Post office. Why did I take a picture of the post office? Because I actually shipped my equipment in advance. It was very expensive to do that. It was like 400 some bucks each way, but boy, was it convenient. The hotel had it for me. They put it in my room when I got there. It was all set, really nice. Also, I wanted to show you that they have a zip code, 96941. So you could probably put a QSL card in an envelope with a normal US stamp and send it to 96941 and it would get here. So there's still some relationship with the United States I don't understand. So how did I do? The answer is not very good. My total number of contacts were way down from previous years. I wanted to make a couple thousand contacts on FT8 And I wanted to hit that pretty heavy, which I think I did. And I was in the CW contest. I thought the conditions were not so good. But this was not one of my better efforts. I'll try to do better when the conditions pick up. But nonetheless, I get a big kick out of getting emails like working Germany on 160 and the guy saying his hands are still shaking. So I just love getting stuff like this. This is why I go on these trips. Papa Yankee 7 was all excited to have a QSO on 80 meters. I love giving people a new band country or a new mode country, or better yet, an all-time new. So in any case, I did work a bunch of Europe on 160. So even though, I don't know, I didn't think the propagation was that good, I did pull out a few guys. As I said, I would like to encourage you guys to go on your own expedition. It's kind of a pain to get all your equipment and antennas and what have you set up, but it's just a lot of fun. I've been on many trips. Is that the last slide? Yes, it is.